Right, we are back and we're in for lower, of course, the most demanding session of the week. I'm absolutely buzzing for it, man. And see the weather, it's pretty good, man. It's probably the first time I've drove to the gym on a weekday where it's been relatively still pretty bright outside that I'm actually do you know what, this is actual good vibes, man. Whenever I'm driving to the gym, it's not dark yet, but it's starting to get dark and it's no blue skies, just pure dull and a bit doom and gloom, you know what I mean? So kind of having actual blue skies driving to the gym on a Friday night, you're this is actually banging, man. So aye, I'm looking forward to today's session. I'm feeling pretty good. I had good sleep last night. I'm not gonna lie, I was feeling pretty battered yesterday. I've said it before, it happens Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday I train, Thursday I rest. On that Thursday I do usually feel pretty done in and pretty gubbed, and yesterday I definitely was. And I don't know how, but I managed to get 17,500 steps, which for me, that's a lot of steps, man. 17.5k is a lot of steps for me, considering that I work from home. I'm literally sat at a desk for the majority of the day, you know what I mean? So I went to the gym after work, got my cardio ticked off, then I thought, you know what, I'm going to edit some YouTube videos on my phone, on the treadmill, and I was there for a lot longer than I thought, apparently, and done so many steps, man. So I was pretty gubbed, I can't lie. My legs, thankfully, aren't feeling heavy today, which is good. I feel pretty recovered, pretty refreshed. As I said, my sleep was pretty good last night. I think it was 8.5 hours sleep last night. So I feel good. I'm ready to basically just smash my legs again and just sort of restart the process, you know what I mean? I'm just feeling absolutely gubbed. But I like having the kind of lower upper Friday, Saturday, because it's then technically just 2 days. Obviously Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday I train in a row, right? So that kind of third day you're oh, I'm feeling pretty done in here, but I'm alright. I can obviously get a good session and all that kind of stuff, but when it's just lower, upper, Friday and Saturday, it's right, okay, realistically I can absolutely bury myself today, because tomorrow it's one more session, then I'm done again for the rest of the day on a Sunday, you know what I mean? But I'm ready to just do it, to be fair. If it goes well, class. If not, oh no. But it will go well. That's what we do. We go in with a positive mindset of this is going to go well. The plan today is actually get some clips for you. I've made sure that the camera is fully charged, because I've got a bit of a bad habit of not charging it until it's 4%, which is probably quite stupid, because then I go to record something and go, shit, I've got no charge on my phone, my camera. Anyway, so I'll try and get some clips. I might even do a wee kind of little segment in the gym speaking, but I'm not too sure yet. Now my biggest movement today, well for me anyway, my biggest movement today is the pendulum. Now, as I said before, I'm focusing a lot more on the kind of sort of the key points of hypertrophy, all that kind of stuff, and it's with pendulum before I would kind of raise my heels quite a lot to try and get a lot more range of motion and kind of get more knee flexion, all that kind of stuff. Didn't feel very stable. I'd kind of get halfway through and be proper struggling, but I was getting more knee flexion, so I was oh, it's fine, I'm getting more knee flexion, so it doesn't matter. But last week I tried it with my feet just actually planted on the pad, no heel raising at all. It just felt so much more stable, so much more controlled, much better stimulus, so we're sticking with that. Now, if you've used the Watson pendulum before, personally, I think it's pretty fucking heavy, man. Now, I've used my favourite pendulum by far is definitely the Atlantis one, purely because it's not exactly the heaviest one either. I think it was 4.5 or 5 plates in that, and it felt pretty nice. I can only do 2.5 on the Watson one, because it is a very heavy pendulum. I've used the Gym Echo one as well. That was actually very nice. I think that's the only ones that I've used. In fact, no, I've used one at Limitless. I think it was a Predator Strength one or something like that. That one was alright as well. So I've used a few, and the Watson one I definitely think has got to be the heaviest one. It's very humbling, but at the same time it is pretty nice, to be fair. So aye, we'll get in and hopefully smoke the pendulum and not get crushed off it anyway. But as I was saying, my main kind of thing just now is focusing purely on like creating a solid stimulus. You should be doing anything, to be fair. I could always be doing that. But before, sometimes it's kind of like, you know what, I want to just focus more so on getting knee flexion, because what I know is knee flexion grows your quads, which isn't necessarily true. Well, it is true, but it's not like exactly the be all and end all. Like, you need to create solid stimulus, and by doing that, if you need to have a little bit less knee flexion, then so be it. But anyway, we are of course in for lower. I'm going to get in. I'll try and record some bits, possibly keep the mic on and just record some bits here and there. But I'll catch you when I catch you. Right, so I discovered from last time that I actually need to speak like this pretty much, because the music in here is incredibly loud. So for you to actually hear me, I need to actually basically shout into the mic. But anyway, I usually start with standing calf raise, but today it was taken. Now it's actually not taken, it's right behind me. But I'm already here now. I've got warmed up, so I'm just starting the line arm curls. Now, with these, in fact, the plan is for today, run you through the session, kind of, not the entire session, but most of it anyway. Like abs, calves, I'll just ignore. I don't want to see that kind of stuff. But the main kind of thing I thought I'd run you through, right? So, line hamstring curl for me, I used to focus so much like my hips proper glued to the pad, but really, you don't actually need to do that, because when you're thinking too much about kind of keeping your hips proper glued to the hab, keeping your hips like glued to the pad, you then kind of automatically restrict yourself from getting the hamstring like fully short. So if you think about it, if you're trying to squeeze your glutes into that pad, right, you can then actually get your hamstrings or like even your heels basically up to your arse pretty much, because you're too focused on keeping those hips down, and it kind of just stops you from like dragging all the way up. So I seen a video recently, actually, I think it was actually, I think it was Jack Eagles in Cuba, I'm pretty sure. And Cuba was basically saying, like, have your quads, think about pushing your quads into the pad rather than your hips into the pad. And like, see, over the past like good few months, that's basically what I've been doing anyway. Like, not thinking about kind of pushing my hips in, just kind of thinking I have my quads sort of rested and focusing purely through sort of dragging through your heels. Because before I would focus too much on kind of like squeeze my glutes in and like try to get my hips pure glued to the pad. And realistically, you need to raise to some degree to get your hamstring pretty short. So when you're doing a line hamstring curl or a seated hamstring curl, yes, your hips need to stay down. Don't feel have your hips flying in the air, but don't need to be pure glued to the pad. You can raise slightly because you'll need to get it fully short anyway. We're just gonna focus purely on what Cuba had a good shout, like having your quads like basically against the pad rather than thinking about your glutes against the pad. If your quads stay glued against the pad, your hips can still move up and down a little bit, but your quads glued, but your hamstring is kind of fixed in that sort of straight line range of motion pretty much. But I'll show you how I can do it anyway. Of course, full stack. It's actually been feeling pretty good recently. 92.5 kg it is now. I was kind of held at 92.5 for like say 10, 11 reps. I do this twice a week. I do it on a leg day on a Monday, then lower day on a Friday. And it was kind of held at like 10, 11 reps. On Monday there, I got 12 and it felt absolutely bang on. So hopefully we get 12 again here and we're good to go.
Right, so last week's top set I got 2.25 for 10. That was 2.375, so a 2, a 5 and a 2.5 for 9. So that was pretty solid, man. Overall, felt very, very good. Again, I kind of reset it quite a lot. I was doing like 2 plates and a 15, then a 2.5 on top of that, so 2.875 or whatever. And that was it, kind of me focusing purely on deflection. Now, that's a lot less weight, a good kind of like 10, 15 kg lighter. And it just feels so much better on my quads. I just feel that I'm getting a proper like stimulus the entire rep rather than, say, for example, just the bottom portion of that rep, you know what I mean? So I'm definitely getting more out of a lighter load. Now, if you can do that with anything, if you can get a lighter load out of, no, if you can get more stimulus, sorry, out of like a lighter load, why would you not? Now, I'm not saying do 40, 50 reps and just get a proper like class pump, like before you get a better stimulus in that sense for like a lateral within obviously a decent rep range, i.e. between 6 to 20 reps or whatever. Obviously 20s again, kind of usually high for me. Between 6 to 12 roughly. So that first set is, I think it's a 7 to 10, so obviously 9 there. Second set I think is 10 to 12. Again, I'll double check it again, but for the first set, pretty chuffed with that, man. So we'll go in for the back off. Obviously just now I'm showing you the kind of feet positioning when it comes to the back off. Like, I'm trying to keep my feet relatively planted to that pad. Like they might raise a little bit in my heels, like kind of as I'm sort of changing direction, but I'm focusing purely on pushing through my midfoot and not just my toes. Like before, I would do that quite a lot, focusing knee flexion, just push through the toes, get a major bend in your knee and just kind of straight out the toes pretty much. But now I'm focusing purely on more sort of midfoot pressure and like pushing all the way through the movement rather than just that sort of bottom portion and try to sort of bounce out of that knee flexion, if you know what I mean. So having that sort of midfoot pressure definitely helps a lot more when it comes to like a proper stimulus anyway. So hi, pendulum picked off. Right, we're now on to every guy's favourite exercise now. I'm pretty sure the majority of folk watching this will be guys, so if you're a guy, believe it or not, you do actually have to train your glutes, right? So we're on the booty builder here, of course, but goes for guys and women. If you're trying to like target your glutes, this movement I've seen like butchered I don't know how many times, man, and it's like people try and go too deep, then that takes tension off your glutes, puts it onto your quads, onto your hamstrings, and not the glutes that you're trying to target, right? It's a booty builder. You're trying to build your booty, you know what I mean? So I'm going to try and show you and sort of run through the sort of main things that I see anyway when it comes to the booty builder, right? So first off, something that a lot of people like to do for whatever reason is this. They come all the way down here, then all the way back up here, then all the way down again. But that's not putting tension directly on your glutes, right? What you're basically aiming for is to keep your shins, so to speak. Is it perpendicular? Is that the word? Perpendicular to the foot pad. Basically want it in the same angle as the foot pad, and you're literally driving through your hips. It's a glute drive, you're driving through the glutes, right? So squeezing up to the top, coming down, but keeping your shins still in line with that foot pad. And again, driving back through. What I kind of personally think of is a kind of an arcing motion. So when you're coming down, you're trying to almost push your hips out to either side of you pretty much, then up to the top. You're kind of squeezing through your glutes and sort of arcing back out again, if you get me. So the kind of motion that I'm going for is that a kind of a curve. So on the way to the top, you're kind of coming up and curving out, then the way back down, you're kind of curving out again. But if you're coming too deep, you are going to just take it completely off your glutes. Like, if you think about it like an RDL as well, like if you're coming to the bottom of an RDL, right, and then your hamstrings and your glutes are fully lengthened, when you then come even deeper, it's no longer your hamstrings and glutes are getting more out of, it's your lower back basically taking over. So same goes for here. If you're coming too deep, it takes that tension off of your glutes, obviously, rather than you're basically applying that tension that you're thinking is basically going more into your glutes because you're getting deeper. actually into your quads or into your hamstrings, into your lower back, it's not then helping your glutes any further. So I'll try and kind of show you my prop set from the side so you can kind of sit me by the shins, but ideally you're wanting your shins to be in line, the same angle as that foot pad pretty much. Right, we are back on this machine again. However, this of course wasn't the pendulum last time. The pendulum's actually right next to it. But this is obviously single leg press I'm going for. Now with these, I aim for a bit more kind of glute focus. Apologies that I'm pure face away. It's like mega crowded behind the camera. I don't want to pure like stare at folk, you know what I mean? But anyway, single leg press, it's more kind of glute focus. I'll kind of show you sort of foot positioning that I like to use anyway, as I'm still kind of warming up. But what I basically do is keep my foot relatively high on the foot pad. Obviously, if it is lower, you get more knee flexion. A little bit higher, you get some more hip flexion. Now, obviously, I'm going for kind of quad and glute. But to be fair, kind of more so glute, a little bit higher, so more kind of hip flexion than it is knee flexion. But I'm basically coming down into my knee, well, roughly about 90 degrees. So I'm hitting about here. My glute is feeling like mega stretched just now. That is roughly about 90 degrees, maybe a little bit deeper or a little bit just above. But to me, it feels like 90 degrees or just over. So what I basically do is like 3 to 4 reps, just getting warmed up. I'll go across both legs, obviously. What I'm basically trying to do is keep my hip to my ankle relatively a straight line. So you don't want your foot majorly outside your hip, because if it is, it'll just feel extremely uncomfortable for a start. You won't feel very strong. Obviously, you won't line up your... Oh, I know I'm warming up, man, but it's still pretty fucking heavy. Obviously, if your foot is outside your hip, straight away, you're kind of causing complications for your knee. If you think about it, your ankle is obviously a mobile joint. It can move any direction. If you sit with your ankle and like twist your ankle around, it can go like left, right, up, down, all that, right? But your knee can literally only bend forwards, kind of push backwards. So if you're bending down, it's bending forwards, you're standing up, kind of coming back in again. Your knee can't go out to the right, so, or to the left, even whatever it is. So if your foot is outside your hip and it's still straight against the foot pad, instantly you're causing a lot of discomfort for your knee, right? Now, if your foot is higher up and angled outwards, then yeah, it can definitely work. But at the same time, try to kind of target glute and quad, literally just foot straight. Basically from here to your hip, it's just a straight line, pretty much. So I'm aiming for a straight line from foot to hip, coming roughly 90 degrees to get a good amount of hip flexion anyway, because my foot is of course higher. If my foot was down here and I came just as deep as I did there, I'd get a lot more knee flexion. So it'd be pretty much probably quite far past 90 degrees. I'd be trying to kind of basically fold myself in half while keeping my foot obviously on the foot pad. But for this, it's glute and quad, so I'm focusing more so on foot higher, more hip flexion than knee flexion, and literally just a straight line from here to your hip. Ah. Ooh.
Right, that is lower ticked off. Now I'm hoping you can hear me in those videos. Now if not, then I would probably just patch all the videos, to be fair. But I recorded me in the gym, obviously speaking over some certain movements. I ran through lying hamstring curl, pendulum, glute drive, and then single leg press. No point running through like calves and abs because you don't really want to see that. Unless you do, let me know. I'll run through those as well. But the session basically goes, I usually start with standing calf raise, but it was taken, so I done lying hamstring curl first. So it usually goes standing calf raise, lying ham curl, pendulum, glute drive, single leg press, adductors. Then I do a single leg length and partial lying hamstring curl, then finish up with abs. So that is the entire session. So I basically showed you about, I think it was roughly half the session. But those movements are the kind of main hitters anyway, like lying hamstring curl, pendulum, glute drive, and single leg press. Now that single leg press, it feels absolutely phenomenal. If you've used any like Prime or Strive kit before, been able to kind of adjust that resistance profile, the difference that it makes is actually wild. And like, honestly, it feels like you're about to rip something off the bone at the bottom of the movement, but it feels like incredibly good stimulus and good stretch. It just feels spot on. But it is extremely like just pain towards the end, man. Overall, a very, very good session again. I progressed a good few things now, again, focusing more so on like creating solid stimulus and like being a bit kind of safer and more sensible in terms of like actual training. Like for example, pendulum, I ran through it in the clips there, like not lifting my feet, my heels, sorry, excessively at the bottom, aiming for more knee flexion. Like I'm just kind of getting the knee flexion that I can get in my sort of active range of motion. And it feels absolutely spot on just now. It feels really, really good. I'm getting like an overall like quad stimulus rather than just kind of that bottom portion. Because when you're like creating more knee flexion and your heels lift up, to me personally, it's like that sort of bottom portion. Yeah, you get a much bigger stretch, but at the same time, you almost kind of have like some sort of momentum, like sort of taking you out that hole because there is such a big like. It's like pulling, say, an elastic band. Like you pull it so far back, and then the second you let it go, it'll just fucking ping. That's what it feels like, kind of getting that deep in like a pendulum. Like it's just so tight and compact, and you kind of get a bit of momentum out the hole when it's like that. And really, you don't really want that. So to me personally, coming deeper and like actually just keeping my feet as planted as I possibly can. Yeah, my heels raise as I kind of change direction, but it's nothing like excessive. Just kind of like that sort of power and pressure for the midfoot. It raises very, very slightly, but nothing too crazy. But as I said, like it's like it takes that sort of elastic band effect out of the equation pretty much, and I kind of have to control it a lot more through the entire rep. So overall for me, it creates a much better stimulus. And then obviously with glute drive I mentioned, like it's something that you see far too often. People coming like all the way down and all the way back up and just like not really applying direct pressure to their glutes. Like you don't need to come all the way down and try and touch the bottom of the machine. Like, there's no need to do that if your like main focus is right. Okay, I'm trying to build my glutes on the booty builder, as you would think, try to build your booty. You know what I mean? Coming much further down, like it just applies pressure to other areas you're not actually trying to target. So it comes back to the whole thing of like being smarter with your movements in the sense of right, okay, I'm trying to create stimulus here, I'm trying to grow this muscle, so you want to try and keep tension on that muscle the entire time. You don't want to have it shifting between your glutes and your quads and your hamstrings. Like you don't want to do that. You basically want it to stretch the glute and then lengthen the glute and then shorten the glute. That is your main focus, not come all the way to the bottom. Okay, now tension's now off my glute and onto my quads. Right, okay, now tension's off my glute. onto my hamstrings. Like we don't want that. It's not the purpose of the movement. Well, for me anyway, is my focus is to do it more so for glutes. You know what I mean? I'm kind of assuming yours is as well if you're using the booty builder. So, aye, when it comes to that, just listen to that wee kind of clip if you can hear it. Hopefully you can hear the clips. I'm going to go in and edit them just now, and fingers crossed everything can be heard. But aye, that was the lower session ticked off. Again, a very good session. I'm pretty chuffed with how it went. Nothing to really complain about, to be fair. Everything progressed in either reps or load. So again, I cannot complain, can I? Like, if everything's progressing, more stimulus, just feeling, to be fair, I'm actually feeling surprisingly stronger, especially on the line ham curls. For me, they kind of like, they stalled for a while for me. Like, they weren't progressing, even when I was like gaining still, or like in pre-prep or my maintenance phase, whatever. Like, they weren't really progressing much. I kind of had this sort of block, like I was hitting, like I said, 10, 11 reps, and it would just kind of stop. I wouldn't get any further. Today I went in, I got 11 reps on the first set, but my back off set, I was like stuck at, I think it's 82.5 kg for again like another 12ish reps, and I get 14 today, and I was like, well, what's fucking going on here, man? Like, it feels class. So aye, overall, a very good session, cannot complain. But apart from that, I hope you kind of enjoyed the wee sort of the breakdown of movements. If you'd like to see more, of course, please let me know. Please subscribe as well if you're watching. Like, comment, all that good stuff. I'd appreciate it all. But yes, apart from that, I hope you have enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one.